the free astrotheology course. All right, I'm coming to you live from Southeast Asia, the beautiful Vietnam. Okay, the name of our textbook, or the title of the textbook, here it is: The Gospel and the Zodiac, The Secret Truth About JC, the Christ Figure. The author is Bill Darrell-El. All right, the link to the free PDF is in the description area of this video. You'll also find links to many of the Ancient Ibaryath books that I have written. So go out and make sure you purchase those. And when you buy them on zionlawschool.org. Don't buy them on Amazon or any place else, okay, because they take too much money. All right, also subscribe or enroll in some of my classes. The links are in the description area of this video, all right, y'all? So let's go ahead and get into it. So we're gonna begin on page 6, all right? And the topic on page 6 is the man with the water jar. So y'all should know that's Aquarius, right? The man with the water jar. So Aquarius is let me show you the page. We're on page 6. So y'all make sure y'all get this book, download it. You can buy it, but the free link is in the description area. All right, so Aquarius. You cannot tell if Aquarius is a man or a woman. All right, Aquarius is androgynous. Women did not carry water in the ancient Near East. So if you believe that the ancient Near East is the promised land, and that's the culture we should be pulling from, making decisions based upon, all right, then women did not draw water. So Aquarius would not be a man. But needless to say, Aquarius is androgynous. Looks like a man and a woman. Can't tell the difference, all right? And it's probably also an hermaphrodite. I don't know. But if it's androgynous, it's probably also having both male and female sex organs present. Probably equally underdeveloped. Okay, probably equally underdeveloped. All right, that's why you cannot tell what they are. All right, so here we are, y'all. Thanks for liking and sharing the video. Y'all, if y'all haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so. Let's get into this. Now, let me backtrack. I know that the promised land is not where they say it is today. The Near East or the Middle East in that area, right? I know that for a fact, based upon Moses' words. So those of you who have attended my classes or watched my videos, you should know where the land is located, where the promised land is located, and the condition of the land. You should know that. So logic should tell you that the culture that we should be looking at is located in the area where the promised land is or was. All right, we're still there. But do y'all see what I'm saying? If you've been in my classes, you'll know what I'm saying. So that is to say that most, if not all, of what you read about the cultural content, you know, you get the interpretation and understanding through the culture, a knowledge of the culture, even a knowledge of idioms, especially idioms. You get that through the knowledge of the culture. So if you've been misled to think that that is the ancient Near East and all of these deities come from the ancient Near East, well then you are lost in the sauce. That's right, all of that studying that you did was for naught because you've been played. All right? So we would need to take a look at the cultures in the areas where the promised land is. Okay? Where it is. Anyway, let's continue. That's not what this video is about. Let's continue. Who is the man with the water jar? Okay? The first controversy. Men don't carry water. It is a humiliation. Okay, now this is in the ancient Middle East. Now there is a possibility. There is a possibility that some portion from 0% to 100% of the culture that they're claiming comes from the ancient Near East doesn't. That's also a possibility, okay? So anyway, let's continue. The vision of Christ that thou doest see is my vision's greatest enemy. Y'all hear that? The vision of Christ, that's y'all Savior, or the sun in the sky, whichever way you go, that thou doest see is my vision's greatest enemy. Thine has a great hook nose like thine. Mine has a snub nose like mine. So one has a hook nose. Y'all know who has a hook nose. And one has a snub nose. All right, snub nose would be pushed forward. The hook nose goes out. Y'all know who has a hook nose, right? Thine is the friend of all mankind. Mine speaks in parables to the blind. Who spoke in parables? JC, the Christ figure. Why did JC speak in parables? He said it out of his own mouth. So that those in the crowds, that's the masses of the people who are quote unquote outside of the house, would never understand what he was talking about, so that they could never repent and be saved. Meaning that he doomed the masses of the people to burn in hell, or eternal death, or to be debt slaves, bondmen and bondwomen. Do y'all understand that? What is hell? Hell is also the prison of the kings, where the debtors go, where the king's debtors go. They're held in prison. This is hell. Is it clear, y'all? Is it clear? So those on the outside of the house are bondmen and bondwomen. Make your correlation to 14th Amendment citizenship. Make your correlation to stateless people, civil leader mortuus status, loss of birthright. Removal of substance from the Constitution, both Moors in taking away their nationality, their land, right? The gold and the silver. Now all substance has been removed from the Constitution. Y'all see it? And that's not that it can't be brought back, but if you want to be the law and be in your proper status, to have your birthright back, you must live in harmony with your ancient foremothers and forefathers. That's Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. All right, you must understand Genesis chapter 2, I believe it's verse 7. All right, man was created from the dust of the soil. Therefore, man is the substance and subject matter of the law. That's right. Moors are land. Go look it up in the Black's Law Dictionary or others, and you will see that Moors is synonymous with land. Therefore, you are the substance and subject matter of the law. Therefore, whatever you say is the law. If it ain't about you, it ain't about law. All right, so here we see we have Moors, and then the hybrids are subjects. Subjects. Clear? All right. But that applies also to foreigners. Foreigners are subjects, right? When they come on our land, they are subjects. Let's continue. Thine loves the same world that mine hates. The heaven's doors are my hell gates. Y'all see that? Whose heaven is our hell? Whose heaven is our hell? As Malcolm X said. If you're in the inner house, you're saved. Right? That means you get economic benefits and advantages. You get benefits and advantages and exceptions in the legal system that they have established. That means you and yours have more opportunities. Right? The quality of your life is better when you're in the inner house. Why? Because you've been saved. You've been saved. You know the mysteries of the kingdom of God, as Jesus said. Those on the outside of the house, they are not to know the mysteries of the kingdom of God. And what are those mysteries? The mysteries are the second and the third, etc. meanings of the Gospels, and knowing that you should be in honor, stay in honor at all costs, and you should harmonize your life with nature. All right? That's the secret. Okay? And what? Psalms 82:6. Psalms 82:6. You are quote unquote God. You're your own savior, and so am I. And so am I. And it's up to each one of us to master natural law and live in harmony. And then we express ourselves through our demonstrations. Through our demonstrations. That means your behavior and your actions, right? All right, let's continue. Okay, the heaven doors, that's those who are in the inner house, are my hell gates. Their heaven, the heaven for the people in the inside of the house that JC talked about, is hell for the masses of people who are on the outside. All right, denationalized Moors. Okay, all people, all Moors who are believing in religion, Christianity, all of you are in the civil leader jurisdiction of the Dogon. That's right, you have no birthright. You're in the jurisdiction of the Dogon maritime law, the Catholic Church. Clear? All right, let's continue. Let's continue. Socrates taught what Miletus loathed as a nation's bitterest curse, and Caiaphas was in his own mind a benefactor to mankind. Mankind, a kind of man. Caiaphas wanted to kill the Christ, right? Now, how many meanings might that have? Might that have a double or triple meaning? Caiaphas, the high priest, wanted to kill the Christ. Well, he was responsible ultimately, right? But how might that work out, yo? And Caiaphas was in his own mind a benefactor to mankind. Mankind is Genesis chapter 1. The created creature, the product of a genetic engineering experimentation by the dark priesthood who were Moors. In their efforts to gain control and dominate everybody on the planet through military conquest and through religion. All right? In other words, brainwashing people to disconnect them from nature and from themselves. Okay? All right, so let's continue. Both read the Bible day and night, but thou readest black where I read it white. This is a quote by William Blake, The Everlasting Gospel. And I think his point here is that the various denominations of Christianity, and that would apply to any religion, they have different interpretations of the scriptures, therefore different doctrines, and they produce radically different fruit. All right, you know a tree by its fruit. All right, let's continue. I really need to get a studio. It was quiet in this place before I started doing my live stream. I really need to get my own studio. You know, when you do a live stream, when you present, when you teach anything, your mood, it should be a joyous mood you should be in, right? It should be a celebration. Every presentation, every lecture should be a celebration. That should be the mood of the person who's delivering the information. I think for obvious reasons, right? All of the controversies, note y'all, all of the controversies with which the fathers of the earthly church entertained themselves. Okay, so even back then, the early church, controversy, just like today, controversy. But at that time, the Catholic Church was trying to nail down their foundational doctrines, okay? And by the way, these doctrines changed as the political, social, economic, and political environment changed. They changed their doctrines, okay? And it was all about making money, and it still is. But the doctrine of discovery has been so lucrative that they haven't had to do much else really substantial after that. All right? Let's continue. Of all the controversies with which the fathers of the early church entertained themselves, few seem as irrelevant to the contemporary mind. In other words, all of those problems that they dealt with back then seem irrelevant, a waste of time to modern people, as that which concern the duration of JC's ministry. In other words, I think everybody learns that JC's ministry was 3 years, right? 3 years. But the early church fathers didn't agree that it was 3 years. That was a big time controversy. But today it seems irrelevant, right? Today it seems, why would you argue that? But at that time, it was a big deal. See, this is why knowing the history of events or organizations really matter. It really matters, all right? Because there's additional meaning that modern day Christians attach to this 3-year ministry. But anyway, let's continue. For about 18 centuries, for about 1,800 years. Now, if y'all believe that, if you believe, think about this. Y'all think about this. Use your logical mind. Use your logical mind. They still have records from 1,800 years ago. Come on, use your... Clearly they don't. And do you realize how many times they would have had to rewrite and rewrite and rewrite these records? They're lying about the time frame. The time frame is an absolute lie. Common sense should tell you that. See, once you get out of the indoctrination, you start looking at these huge amounts of time and the things that they claim to know in the context of their criminal past and criminal mind, that they are known criminals, known liars, and known to use writings, fake artifacts to create a so-called science, or to give authority to their leaders, to put them in an authoritative position, and to make you believe, to gain control over your mind. When you know all of this, an intelligent person says, I don't believe SHIT that come out of your mouth. Definitely not when you start talking about something that happened 1,800 years ago. Like I'm stupid enough to believe that you know, or that that document is that old, or that it is without substantive edits over the centuries. Come on, y'all. Use your mind. Everything is biodegradable. Everything is biodegradable. No matter what they tell you, use your common sense. For about 18 centuries, the common assumption throughout Christendom has been that between JC's baptism by John and his crucifixion by Pilate, 3 years elapsed. So JC was baptized, and 3 years later, he was crucified. This is based on a legitimate reference to the number of Passover festivals mentioned in the Gospel of John. Okay, so Christ, JC's ministry was 3 years. And that's based on, not Mark, according to the author, not Mark, whose gospel was the first to be written, not Matthew, and not Luke, who wrote their gospels after Mark, based upon Mark's as the template, but based upon John's gospel, where it is inferred. It is inferred, not directly stated, it is inferred that 3 Passovers went by. So in other words, John baptized JC, the Christ figure. There was 1 Passover. There was a 2nd Passover. There was a 3rd Passover, and JC was crucified. All right? Is it inference? How many of y'all knew that? That's a good piece of trivia, right? It don't mean nothing, but it's a good piece of trivia. But you see that doctrine is based upon flimsy evidence. Flimsy evidence. But y'all should already know why they did three years, right? You should already know why they did 3 years. All right, let's continue. Y'all want to know why they did 3 years? Y'all want to know? I'm going to tell you why. Here's why they say JC's ministry was 3 years. Because when the Escheat sun, the disk in the sky, enters into a constellation, it enters in at 30 degrees. JC was 30 years old when he began his ministry. When it exits the constellation, it exits that constellation at 33 degrees. Y'all got that? It exits the constellation at 33 degrees. Therefore, JC exited the fleshly body at 33 years old. It is astrological. This is based upon a legitimate inference from the number of Passover festivals. What are Passover festivals? The sun passing over. Here's a celestial equator at 0 degrees. The sun sprang forth or sprang north up on December 25th, where Christ was born. And then the sun reaches 0 degrees. The celestial equator is at 0 degrees. And then the sun continues springing upward, ascending. Now the sun has passed over the celestial equator. It did that 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. There were 3 Passovers. And then the sun was crucified. When does the sun get crucified? This is the celestial equator. This is the sun at June 21st. The sun is falling toward autumn, falling toward fall. The sun reaches 0 degrees at the autumn equinox, 0 degrees. And now the sun falls below or is crucified by the celestial equator. It's all astrological. All right, let's continue. Okay, so this is based upon a legitimate inference from the number of Passover festivals mentioned in the Gospel of John. And it is difficult to see how anyone could or would ever want to challenge that there were 3 Passovers. And yet it was a dispute over which a considerable amount of ink was expended towards the end of the 2nd Christian century. I'm going to go ahead and say publicly that none of this stuff happened 1800, 2,000 years ago. First of all, JC never walked the earth. That's the first thing. Second of all, that landmass that was called the Promised Land is a burning waste. It is in the same condition as Sodom and Gomorrah, according to Moses. Y'all go watch the video that I did with Sonetta, and you'll see some evidence. You can search for the video that I did that goes through all of the details on that topic. Moses' words, that goes through all of the details. I don't remember the name of the video. Okay, but y'all go watch that. I believe it's on my YouTube channel. All right? This whole 2000, Christ was born 2,000 years ago, that's an outright lie. He's born in Nazareth, that's an outright lie. Outright lie. So if that is a lie, go ahead and subtract those 2,000 years out. All right, now you're going to get to the point where the Catholic Church came into power. All right, now we can start talking about documents. Okay, now we can start talking about documents. Realistically, let's continue. And yet it was a dispute over which a considerable amount of ink was expended toward the end of the 2nd century CE. Who must these writers have been? They would have had to have been Moors. Moors. Not pale-faced hybrids. Why? Because they were still wild. They were still wild. Right? They were still ignorant and wild. Irenaeus, Orthodoxy's first systemic apologist, writing about, in other words, they had no appreciation of language. They have no appreciation of the several liberal arts, especially language, okay, which they could barely speak. And y'all know how they were living, the pale-faced hybrids, how they were living in Europe. So these would have been our Moorish ancestors who did this to us. All right? So Irenaeus, Orthodoxy's first systematic apologist, writing about 185 CE, that's about 150 years after JC's alleged death, goes to great lengths to prove that JC exercised his ministry over many years in order to counter the contention of various Gnostic groups. So the Gnostics, who are very likely holding or have in their possession large amounts, if not all of the available solutions to the mystery of the kingdom, right? The inner house. The author says that the Gnostics have a lot of that information. So I'm not telling you my opinion. I'm telling you what I read here. Okay. This Irenaeus goes to great lengths to prove that JC exercised his ministry over many years in order to counter the contention of various Gnostic groups, principally the followers of Valentinus. So he was a Gnostic, okay, all right. To counter the conditions of the Gnostic groups that JC taught for 1 year only. So the Gnostics said that JC's ministry was only 1 year. And further, that JC suffered in the 12th month. So you can check that at Irenaeus on page 200. So according to the Gnostics, in the inner house, JC's ministry was 1 year. His ministry was 1 year. That would be one Passover. So where does John get these additional 2, totaling 3? But then hopefully the author is going to present, I hope, what the evidence is to prove this. Because I would sure like to know. So we're on page 6, y'all. An idle piece of pedantic squabbling, we might be tempted to conclude, but we would be wrong to conclude this. In other words, the author is saying this looks like it doesn't mean anything on its surface, but it means a whole lot. The controversy, that's the controversy over the number of years of Jesus' ministry, was not just over an arbitrary 12-month period. The controversy concerned the solar year. It concerned the solar year, which begins at the spring equinox. And Valentius' claim is absolutely startling. The career of JC, the Christ figure, is connected with the sun, the S-U-N sun, the disk in the sky's annual journey through the heavens. And he implies that the various stages of it, that's the sun, right? He's in constellation 1 with zodiac sign 1, 2, 3, right? All the way to 12. Correspond with the signs of the zodiac. Now do y'all see? Do y'all see? All right, so the Gnostics knew and openly taught that JC is the S-U-N Son. All right? And that his ministry represents only the length of a solar year. Okay? From spring, March 19th or thereabout, all the way through summer, fall and winter, and back to March 18th. That's the end of the solar year. March 19th, a whole new solar year. And that JC, remember the Mazzaroth, y'all? The Zod, Z-O-A-D. Y'all remember that? The path, the snake with its tail in its mouth that represents the Zodiac, the wheel, the sun's annual journey along the path. The path is the 12 Zodiac signs. That was the length of JC's ministry according to the Gnostics. But the religionists came in, and I hope we're going to find out why they wanted to do 3 years instead of 1. But they may have chose 3 years so that it wouldn't be obvious that JC's ministry is nothing but 1 solar year. The disk in the sky, the sun, S-U-N, disk in the sky, beginning in spring, going all the way around, which is the first, so Aries is the first constellation, spring, March 19th, first day of Aries, goes all the way around, okay, that's 1 solar year, and then we're back into Aries, which is another solar year. They probably wanted to hide that. I don't know, but let's continue reading. But I hope y'all are enjoying getting this knowledge. For Valentinus and his followers, that's the Gnostics, the gospel story is not a rudimentary biography of a single individual pieced together from reminiscence of eyewitnesses or those who had known eyewitnesses, but an allegory. In other words, for the Gnostics, the whole JC story is mythology. It never happened. JC never lived, and neither did the apostles. All right? So the whole of the Gospels are an allegory in which the sun, the disk in the sky, the S-U-N sun, in which the sun cycled from its birth in Aries, when spring begins, to its death in Pisces 12 months later. Is that clear, scholars? Symbolically reflects the spiritual cycle of the Gnostic initiate on his journey towards spiritual liberation or enlightenment. So in other words, when the person becomes a Gnostic, he is born or born again. Okay, when he finishes his cycle, if he does whatever he's supposed to do, he is enlightened. Clear? Now, this agrees, what the Gnostics are saying agrees with the ancient Coptic Egyptians. Remember that? Remember that? Because the Catholics were attacking, the hybrids were attacking, they wrote to preserve the knowledge. Well, let me rephrase that. To protect and preserve astrological and astronomical knowledge, they wrote the Gospels. It is a allegorical story that tells about the annual route or journey of the sun. Okay? So the Gnostics are in agreement with that. Or they're not in agreement, but it's consistent with why the ancient Coptic Egyptians wrote the Gospels in the first place, which were purely astrological. Okay? Gnostic, let's see, where are we at? This is why Valentinus claimed that JC died in 12 months. March, the month of Pisces, was so crucial to his case, and why Irenaeus was at such pains to refute it. They didn't want that out, so Irenaeus said, we got to come up with a counter. We got to counter that because we don't want the public to know anything about science, anything about engineering. We must keep them ignorant. Ignorant. And the only thing they can ever know is doctrine, stuff that the church makes up. Which means they will always have you acting out of harmony with natural law, and those natural laws would oppress and punish you. In other words, they use natural law to do their dirty work. And there's no external deity coming to save you. Oh boy. Y'all put a 1 in the comment section if y'all understand. If y'all understand what I'm talking about. Put a 2 if I'm irritating you. Or if you don't understand, put a 3 if you don't understand, a 2 if you are irritated by this content. Put a 1 if you understand what I'm saying. Give me some feedback. There is no reason to suppose that this and other Gnostic heresies, quote unquote heresies, which Irenaeus condemns so roundly and at times parodies so shamefully in his first volume work, were new ideas which had parasitically attached themselves to a history-based Christianity. So y'all can kind of see what's happening here, right? These Gnostics were probably Moors who still had some pull. They're Moors who still had some pull, some influence, some power. And they were battling against the religionists, the Catholic Church. There was a confrontation. That's what it sounded like. That's what it's sounding like to me. All right? And these religionists, these Catholics, these Christians, you know, they tend to be warlike, right? So we know that they didn't battle with the pen. If you disagree with a Christian, what are they going to come do? They're going to come militarily or with arms, with violence. We've seen that throughout history, even today. Even today. Okay? Even today. So this is what was happening, y'all. There were some scientists, some engineers. They called them Gnostics. And they said, wait a minute. This is not a real history. This has a Coptic Egyptian origin, which is, these Gospels represent nothing more than astrological science. That's all it means. That's the essence of what happened here. And then the renegade, probably renegade Moors, these Catholics and Christians said, oh, no, 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 no. They probably had their hybrids with them. The Han Human. I don't know. I'm just thinking about what might make sense. And they said, no, 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 no. We're going to put out that JC is a real person who lived, okay? And we're going to make the people believe his doctrine, which we're going to make ourselves. All right? And I'm giving you an offer you can't refuse. You either shut up or we're going to take you out. I'm sure it went something like that. Let's continue. Although it flourished in the second Christian century, let me go back. Gnosticism was certainly not new in Irenaeus' time. Although it flourished in the second century, its roots go back much further. Some scholars tracing its ancestry back to the religion of ancient Iran. Others favoring an origin in Judaism. Now, if y'all know me, you will know that this whole, in my opinion, my estimation, this religion stuff, Christianity, Islam, etc., all of this stuff is new. Came in with the Catholic Church. And they basically wrote, they used the story of the Zodiac, right? The sun's annual journey. They came up with one template. One became Christianity for the Americas and Africa. One became another religion in another part of the world. One became Islam. And how did they do it? They put a mask over science. That's right, they put a mask over science and called it religion. Y'all see what I'm saying? They masked it. That's it. That's what they did. It's the same story. Same story. All of this stuff going back, 5,000 years, that's all BS. It's all BS. They made it all up. They created it. It is literature. That's it. It is not real histories. None of these religions. What you will find is nations and peoples who practiced or who had well-developed sciences, right? They were highly developed sciences. They had highly developed sciences. They were expert sciences and engineers, architectures, so on and so forth. And they just flipped it, remixed it, and called it religion. And instead of observation and study, they said worship. Clear? They said that they're worshiping. No, no, no. They were observing. They were doing science, doing engineering. They were building. Y'all see what I'm saying? And they hid that by masking it in religion. Okay, let's continue. Although Gnosticism flourished in the second century, in the second Christian century, its roots go back much further. Some scholars tracing its ancestry back to the religion of ancient Iran. I believe that would be Zoroastrianism. Others favoring an origin in Judaism. Whatever its precise origins, it was never a unified religious movement, but an approach to spiritual matters which transcended conventional boundaries. In other words, they're saying it was not a typical religion. It was dualistic and generally associated with the world of matter Okay, the world of matter would be science, right? That's the physical world, physical phenomenon. And flesh with evil. So flesh with evil, that would be morals and ethics. Okay, morality and ethics. The lack of the aspirant, I'm sorry, let me repeat that. The task of the aspirant, the task of the Gnostic was to attain spiritual freedom by overcoming bondage to the flesh. Y'all hear that? So if you were a Gnostic, your goal was to develop self-discipline. That's all that's saying. Gnostics' main priority was to develop self-discipline, which means to develop themselves, right? To develop themselves. Okay? So if one learns self-discipline, what is this hinting at? This is hinting at the development of honor. To develop an honorable personality. Okay? And how did they do that? Through science and engineering, through what they considered good morals and good ethics at that time. That's all that's saying in a very convoluted way. Gnosticism was concerned with the interior life of the spirit. Gnosticism was concerned with your thinking, with your mind. That would be what? Education. Right? Remember, these are scientists and engineers, architects, linguistics. With the development of the mind, see, don't think spirit, S-O-U-L. That's a Catholic thing. The S-O-U-L was developed by the Catholics that escapes after death and goes to heaven or hell. The interior life of the spirit, the mind. You need to develop your mind by observing nature, studying nature, being out in nature, utilizing that apparatus that we have, or that sensory apparatus that we have that allows us to connect to cosmic unconsciousness, or what? Divine providence, or cosmic energy, whatever you want to call it. Okay? To develop your mind through education and utilization of all of your senses, connecting with nature, cosmically and terrestrially, with illumination, which could be attained through prayer, meditation, and the performance of specific rituals. I would tend to disagree. I would take prayer out of there. I don't think that they would have prayed to an external deity. Why? Because when you pray to an external deity, you're doing what? You're reducing or eliminating your own personal power. You are weakening yourself by depending on someone outside of you, which is against nature. By depending on someone, or even looking for someone outside of yourself to do something for you. That is contrary to nature. It is unnatural. How do I know it's unnatural? Okay, you go out there and you try it. You go out there and try it. Be honest with yourself. How many of your prayers have been answered from the time you started until now? 100%? 50%? Or do you need to figure out why the deity is not answering your prayers? Right? Or do you feel like one got answered? Y'all see what I'm saying? Just look at your life and be honest. Performance of specific rituals. What might these rituals be? Well, Well, one ritual might be whatever it is that you do before you eat, like maybe wash your hands. Another might be observing and studying something. You study on a regular basis. That's a ritual. What might another ritual might be? Anything that's involved in you developing your mind and self-discipline that you do on a routine basis. All right? So don't let them get you into the religious mindset thinking that everything was religion. No, it was not. Okay? Our ancestors were very intelligent scientists and engineers. And law and linguistics are, the seven liberal arts are included in that. What else could be rituals? Rituals can be using herbal treatment for your health, or to maintain health, or to fight off illness, right? Ritual, routine. You go out into the wilderness or wherever you get your herbs. Okay? You have a set ingredient or way of processing. Okay? You like to chill out in a certain pair of clothes or outfits at the house. You like to get your incense going. Y'all know in Asia they use incense a lot. It reminds me of when I was younger. I had a brother who used to smoke weed. He used to love incense. I had some uncles who used to love incense. They're the same way in Asia, Southeast Asia. They love incense too. Y'all think we have differences? We are very much alike. Y'all would be surprised. Y'all would be surprised at how much we have in common with the people in Southeast Asia. We just look different. But let me continue. Capital G-O-D was to be experienced within the depths of the individual. Y'all got that? Be clear. Capital G-O-D was to be experienced within the depths of the individual. In other words, Psalms 82. Psalms 82, you are the God. That's what that's saying. All right? Rather than demonstrated rationally or objectified historically. Y'all see that? I don't know why he didn't use just regular clear words. Hold on, y'all. Am I a black cafe? Black cafe? Gamma. I know why he didn't say it, just straight up. The Gnostics knew that they were God. They didn't objectify the God by making an idol or external deity, or saying that there's some external deity who lived other than themselves and created some history, some fake history for it. No, that's not what the Gnostics did. The Gnostics said, I am God, and we study nature, observe nature, and we create and we build using science and engineering. And we govern ourselves. Every man governs his own mind. Every man, woman governs their own mind. And everyone acts in harmony with nature. When we engage with each other, it's commerce. And the basic rule or the most fundamental principle of nature is to do no harm when you're doing commerce, interacting with other morals. Clear, y'all? Clear? Okay, so God was experienced within the depths of the individual. Why he just didn't say that the Gnostics knew that they were God or thought that they were God, I don't know. Rather than demonstrated rationally or objectified historically. That means creating idols or anthropomorphizing some external deity. All right, y'all? Gnosis, which comes from the Greek word for knowledge, is not primarily rational knowledge, but insight. So gnosis means insight. The better definition or better meaning of gnosis is insight. Insight is different from knowledge, right? Gnosis involves an intuitive process. Okay? So gnosis involves an intuitive process of knowing oneself. Now, how can you know yourself? How can you have insight if you don't know your nationality, if you don't know your history? Now, do y'all see a big reason why your history was taken away from you? Why your nationality was taken away from you? To strip you from being able to have insight. Why? Because the number one thing is to know yourself. When you know yourself, what do you have? Well, you have your law. Because your law comes to you through your family, right? Isn't that what we were taught in the book of the law? Every man has to teach their heirs the book of the law, right? Thank you. Got it. Y'all see it? Yes. Right? You need to teach your sons when you're doing this and when you're doing that. Right, y'all? Remember? When you look up the etymological meaning of law, I forgot which book it was. It was in that book, Natural Law. I'm going to start going back through that book. One of the definitions, the definition, that book was written a long time ago. The definition that they gave of law had to do, to summarize or briefly state it, had to do with law coming from instructions from your family, from your community. And that's exactly what we were instructed to do with our heirs. Right? So strip them of that insight. Strip them of the insight, their knowledge of self. See, no knowledge of self, you destroy a man or a woman. What else do you do? No knowledge of self means that person becomes what? A refugee, a stateless person. They have no nationality, therefore they have no constitutional protections. They have no ability to inherit or to receive an inheritance. Right? None. So what's the difference between them and a cow and a sheep? Just ask the hybrids. Ask the pale-faced hybrids who came here from Europe. Our ancestors treated them like animals. And that's the problem with hybridizing, right? They have the intelligence from the man side, right, that they got from the Moabite woman. They have the intelligence or some degree of intelligence, right? But they also have the animal. I believe it's Genesis chapter 9, where the Most High says that he would put the fear of man, he would make sure that the fear of man remained in the animals. Remember that? So now they have no right to inherit anything, but they have some degree of intelligence. where they want their own stuff, but they cannot have it. Why? Because they're Han Uma. And that's how they were treated. And I'm sure that there were other, you know, like y'all watch the, what's the name of that movie? The Island of Dr. Monroe or something like that. That tells the story. You'll see that this Dr. Monroe, they have him as a pale face, but he was a Moor. This is a Yaqub story. He had all kind of mixtures with animals that he was raising. Some looked like that they had a mixture of a tiger. All kind of stuff. All right, y'all? So they can't inherit. And that's how our ancestors treated them. Okay? So you cannot acquire wealth or live a decent life if you, every generation, you got to start over. Your heirs, I mean your children, right? Your heirs have nothing to start out with. But while the others, the colonists right now, they have our land, our resources, our energy, and they're leaving their heirs, and we really can't say their heirs, but in their legal system, their heirs, their children, our wealth. But their elites are taking that from them now. Okay? So that's what's really happening, y'all. Take away the nationality, and you put a person in bondage. They and their offspring. Take away the knowledge of self. No nationality, no ability to inherit. You are finished. You are civil leader mortus, you're cattle, chattel, goyim. Okay, let's continue. Gnosis involves an intuitive process of knowing oneself. And to know oneself is to know human nature. Y'all see that? And human destiny. So they have replaced that with religion, with religious doctrine, be it Christian or Islam. They've replaced that. Yet to know oneself at the deepest level is simultaneously to know God. This comes from Pagil's page X1X. Those are Roman numerals. All right? To know oneself is to simultaneously know God. Dr. Yasapa did not say that. I'm reading it. Bill Darlison, who's probably in the inner house, probably a secret society member, which is how he got all of this information. To know oneself is to know God. Who is God? Psalms 82:6. You are God's. To know yourself is to know that you are God. That means you're not going to look to a JC or any external deity. You're going to look to you. You're your own savior. And your nationality. Your nationality is where you get, in other words, your bloodline, your birthright. Okay? So you must return to nature. You must learn who you are. And accept who you are. And be who you are. Right? And be who you are. You give up the religion. Stop quoting scripture. Stop thinking in religious terms. Give all of that up. The author is telling you. Let me read this again. The author has told y'all exactly what I've been saying. Gnosis involves an intuitive process of knowing oneself. It's intuitive. Some of y'all know something ain't right in them churches. Some of y'all know that you have more internal power than you think. Some of y'all sense something is wrong with your present situation or religion. It is an intuitive process. And to know oneself is to know human nature. To know one, we're not talking about humans, the Hanuman. We're talking about man. To know man's nature. To know your nature. If you know your nature, you know my nature. Right? You're not going to do something to me that you don't want done to you, because you know I'm going to do exactly what you're going to do. Right? Or I'm going to feel. You may have empathy. I'm going to feel the way that you feel. Right? Or somebody is going to take you out. Right? So you ain't going to do it. Natural laws do no harm. So to know man's nature and to know man's destiny. What is your destiny? Well, you're eternal. You are eternal. If you knew that you are eternal, you would not be afraid to die. You would not be afraid to die. You would know that consciousness is energy, and energy transforms. It does not go away. So when you expire, your consciousness will transform into something else. Just what? Who knows? I don't know. But you know it doesn't end. Why? Because energy cannot be created or destroyed. You would know that there's no external deity because you are God. So you know that you're not going to go burn in hell forever, for eternity. So now you don't have anything to be afraid of. Now you can take it easy in life. You know that you are what? A creative genius. That all power exists in you. All power exists in you. All creative power exists in you. You are the Christ. You are the power. Islam to all the Moors. I'm Dr. Yusafa from Zion Law School. Thanks for hanging out with me. Make sure y'all support my project. If you feel it here, in your heart. If you want us to have our own book of the law, support the project, okay? Send in your fiat, be it pesos, dollars, whatever you got, okay? Send it in so that I can get working on it and put this together. We can get rid of all of the lies and deceit, the Jeremiah 8:8 occurrences, and we can put the natural law, principles, and concepts back in the book of the law, and we can make it. I'll write it, I'll show you, it'll be easy to read. Everything that our ancestors would have read will be in the current book of the law when I finish it. But I need your support to do it, but only if you want to, okay? If you think we need it and you don't have any finance, then you make sure you talk to somebody else, okay? Let's get our own book. It kind of feels uncomfortable always having to ask, right? Always having to ask. We as a people should be really ashamed that we don't have our own book of the law. But yeah, everybody out here talking. But anyway, y'all make sure y'all buy my books. The links are in the description area of the video. You'll get an idea of the information that will be in the book of the law. I'll put the Ancient Ibaryath word, its pronunciation, its part of speech. I'll show it how at least two versions, the King James Version, since everybody seems to be attached to that, and another. So you have two comparisons to see how they are rendered, okay? And then after I complete the book, I'll do classes. I'll do classes on the book of the law. All right, y'all? I'll do classes on it. To teach it and to teach you how to use it expertly, scholarly. All right? So shalom, y'all. I got to run. Oh, by the way, my PayPal is paypal.me/Zion Law School. Do not send anything to my Cash App anymore. That account is closed. But you'll see a link for my PayPal in the description area of the video. All right, I'll see y'all again. Islam and Shalom.